It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
No fear, no fear, no fear, no fear here on Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here in Phoenix, Arizona, from the beautiful studios of Freedoms with an S, freedomsphoenix.com. Today is Money Bomb Day. Now, we got lots of money bombs going on, lots of efforts, lots of people want to do something. I'll tell you what, we got a special one today. It's the Revolution Super PAC. Now, they go by revolutionpac.com. And we have author Tom Woods on, the one, the only, and he's chairman of the advisory board of the Super PAC. Now, we've seen him in some of the YouTubes and everything promoting this thing. It's like, it's a really big shoe they're putting on. They have already done some television commercials. They already have a lot of artwork, and we see a lot of artwork. We'll go ahead and start having some of the artwork playing up here for the YouTube. But I tell you, Tom, I need to know, there's a whole bunch of Ron Paul images and stuff on there. Is this kind of secretly a Ron Paul thing, or can you even say that?
We are allowed to say that it's a Ron Paul thing. Rick Perry has a so-called super PAC like us, and Mitt Romney has them. And you can come right out and say you support such and such candidate, but you can't coordinate your efforts with them. We can't call up Ron Paul and say, well, what should we spend our money on? With that, we have to decide for ourselves, which is probably just as well.
Well, who's we? If I'm giving the money, I'm going, okay, I'm busy. I got other things to do. I don't have to, I got some money. Heck, I got gazillions of dollars, and that's the first question. Is there a limit? I mean, can I just, say, here, I trust you guys, here's a bunch of money?
Yeah, absolutely. There is no donation limit for a super PAC, whereas for a presidential campaign, you can donate $2,500, which for most people, they're not going to get close to that anyway, but there is no limit for a super PAC. But the difference between us and, let's say, Romney's or whatever, is that we're just all regular people. Like, we're not making six-figure salaries from this. I'm not making any salary at all. I'm just volunteering to do it. We're just regular people. Whereas I think if you were to look at the roster of the Perry PAC, it would be all these creeps and just creepy, disturbing people who are in there basically just using the super PAC as a vehicle so that millionaires can make their donations and get their spot on the gravy train if Perry or Romney or any of these people should win. Ron, of course, wants to derail the gravy train. So the question is, will people support the super PAC of a guy who isn't promising you a spot on the train? He's just promising you a society in which there is no train.
Well, that's why Gingrich runs, so he can fill up his coffers and go play for another couple of years.
Yeah, sell books and get on the speaking circuit. That's extremely lucrative. I mean, I'm sure Newt gets at least 50 to 80 grand a speech.
Wow. And I know you got your own little rock star groupies that follow you around because, you got some skills, too. I've seen it up at Liberty Fest a couple of years ago. That's why we had you come to the Freedom Summit. I'm like, holy moly, this is a much larger base in search of not who's got the biggest biceps, which I'm sure yours are fine, but, you got the biggest brain muscles and being able to articulate the message. So I need to know, as someone that is chairman of the advisory board of the Super PAC, what's the message that you're hoping people giving you money for you guys to spend? It's not them spending their money. They're giving it to you to spend. What are you going to be doing with this money in the understanding of you being surrounded and talking to the people out there in the Love-olution that have shown their support of what you have to say and what you've done? Adding your name to this has got to have some impact. So please tell the people, you give us the money, we're going to what?
Well, you give us the money. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to pitch Ron Paul the way all of us have wanted to see him pitched. We're going to make ads that are the ads we've been waiting to see, the ones that really tell us who he is. See, we already made our first ad. You can look at it, revolutionpac.com. I think it's, in my opinion, now I realize I got a little bias here, but I happen to think it's the best made-for-TV Ron Paul ad ever. Because what it's doing is it is not saying, hey, you know what, Ron Paul wants to cut government spending. Well, you know what, they all say that. They all say, that is not helpful. Or Ron Paul wants to balance the budget. Well, Rick Perry could make the same ad, right? Michelle Bachmann could make that ad. No, we want to make ads that only our guy could make. That's how you differentiate your product. So our ad doesn't say, you know, Ron Paul, he's an even better conservative Republican than the other conservative Republican. No. Our message is that this man is entirely a class apart from the others. He's not 12% better, a 12% better version of Mitt Romney. He's no version of Mitt Romney. And so we talk about the things that aren't widely known about him, but ought to be widely known. The guy saw the housing collapse coming while every other candidate on that stage was twiddling his thumbs. The guy is the only one who has a completely clean hands when it comes to bailouts and when it comes to foreign policy. I mean, here's a guy who will look you in the eye, will stare into the camera, and say something that he knows he's going to be booed for, and he says it anyway. I mean, who else on that stage would even dream of uttering a truth that he knows is going to get him booed? Nobody. So that's what we're trying to say, the complete hollowness of the opposition. Like we at Revolution PAC, and I'm sure your listeners can't even believe this is even a contest. How could this even be a contest? Mitt Romney versus Ron Paul? How is that a contest? So we are contrasting the hollow men, Perry, Romney, the usual group, with the real live human being who's not a robot, who's not an automaton, who speaks truths, who's not a shill for the bankers. He's a real human being who stands up for his principles regardless of whether you like them or not. That's the Ron Paul we are pushing. Not that he wants to balance the budget or all this crap, but the real man. That's what the reason that people supported him in the first place. When they found out about him, they became excited about him, not because he was a budget balancer, but because he's so different and he's so real. That's the Ron Paul we want to acquaint America with.
This is one thing I want to, let's push the PAC. Today is the money bomb for them to go right now and go do this. But I want to ask a question to provide the motivation for people to do that very thing. If we can get an answer to this. Here's my question.
Okay.
I am looking at various opportunities that I have and other individuals have to be able to support this cultural shift, this change in thinking, the representation that Dr. Paul, my thing is, the longer I can keep him up on the podium up there and slapping these guys around, the better. That was the whole point 4 years ago, from my perspective, is I did everything I could to make sure they could not take him down and still leave any credibility to this entire screwed up system. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and try and take him off, make my freaking day, okay? So now we're looking at an opportunity to where now we have a more seasoned, at least knowledge of the principles that he stands for. That doesn't mean that the mainstream media, the media so last century supports it, but they understand that, man, he's got a constituency out there, and it's not just necessarily in his district. So this is what's going to happen. When I give my money and time, I can either do exactly what I want to do the way I want to do it and just do it, and, that's kind of what happened a lot last time. Multiply that times tens of thousands, and you got what you got. Now we have the campaign. They're saying, either Campaign for Liberty or the campaign say, hey, give us the money and we'll spend your money. All right. Then people may not be satisfied with that. I want a little bit different message, kind of like what you were talking about. The Super PAC, we're going to do different from the campaign. So that's my question. I give the money to the Super PAC, and I happen to have more than the maximum, and I want to give it, and I don't have time to do whatever I want to do. Here, you guys go do it, and you're going to do, as you explained what you were going to do. I need to understand the difference in philosophy. Example, inside the campaign, they're like, man, if we talk too much about pulling the troops out of Afghanistan and Iraq, we don't raise as much money, or the blue hairs in the straw polls at the, parties, de la whatever, they don't like it none too much. Or the if we get a little bit too rambunctious and people going into the campaigns at the different state conventions and delegations they don't like it too much and we don't get a fair shake. If we do, there's all kinds of limitations when you're playing politics inside the system. So the Super PAC provides an opportunity for more of the activist types, and the people on your board, you can see they're more the activists from the last time. Look, if you give us the money, we're going to do the kind of things that they're more uncomfortable with inside. So I need to know what issues. I mean, as much as you differentiate like you're saying, that you separate Ron from the kind of commercials that you want to do are the ones that they either won't or can't do inside the campaign. So I got to ask about some of these issues. The war. The war. How are you going to deal with that issue?
Okay, well, first let me note that I think what our strategy is going to be, depending on the resources we can attract, is that we'd like to produce the things we want to do first, and then say to people, see if you like this. And if you like this, you send us your money. It's not a trust thing where you send us your money and we'll make something out of it, and maybe you'll hate it. Now, we're going to show you first, this is what we've done. Now you help us get it on the air so people can evaluate for themselves. But now, and secondly, I don't want to position us as being in opposition to the official campaign. We are complementary to it. We're filling in some blanks and some gaps, but we're not engaged in any struggle against them.
No,
However,
I need to know what those gaps
are,
Tom. I need to know what those gaps are, because if I'm giving you the money as opposed to them, it better be for a different reason, or why am I giving it to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, here's what I have in mind. I mean, first, the ad that we've already made has already done. I mean, I think it's much more important to note that Rick Perry supported TARP than that he was a Democrat 25 years ago. I mean, it's much more important. What did he do 3 years ago when the chips were down? He was still a bankster. That is much more important to me. So that's what we've got in our current ad. But in terms of the war, yeah, I mean, I don't think the war issue is something you can or should run away from. I think it's completely a mistake for some people to think that we're going to trick people into voting for Ron Paul if we just downplay
Amen.
The war issue, or if we just say, hey, he served in the military, so that's all you need to know. No, this has got to be taken head. I mean, he is who he is, and he stands for these principles. You have to talk about them. So now that we've done, I consider this first ad to be like our intro to Ron Paul. Hey, everybody around the country, here's who Ron Paul is. We did mention the war in this ad. When we cited the arguments of the Founding Fathers against constant war, that what does it lead to? Debt, political centralization, taxes. It undermines a republic. These are the same kinds of arguments he's using today. But now that we've made this intro to sort of Ron Paul 101 ad, what I want to do now is make a series of maybe 30-second ads, which are so hard to do. But I want to make single-issue ads. And I think one of them has got to be the foreign policy. And here, there are a variety of avenues we can go down, and we would perhaps even solicit input from the grassroots. But, you've got these quotations from Ron Paul a year or two before 9/11 saying, the more you get involved overseas, the more trouble you get into. But also he's been warning about the economic ramifications of this. I mean, when you add in all the different expenditures that are war-related, it's close to $1 trillion a year. How can you be a serious Tea Party, I'm concerned about the debt guy, and not want to turn down that spigot at all? So these types of things we want to make front and center. As I say, you cannot. You're not going to trick people into just saying, "Well, vote for the best budget balancer," because they'll probably say, "Well, Rick Perry sounds like a budget balancer, and I think he's more likely to win. So why don't I just vote for that guy?"
Okay, so the point of a super PAC allows for the articulation of exactly what you just said by any inspired individual that happens to have the resources to do it. This is the vehicle that has been I remember when Stephen Colbert went through his thing making fun of the super PAC and how he can do whatever, because there's always a loophole, and my loophole was the First Amendment. I go, you know what, I can do whatever I want with my money, bite it,
right,
come after me, make my freaking day. I was daring them.